So I want you to imagine a creature that, well, it stops eating entirely. It just burns right through its own muscle, leaps up waterfalls, and dodges literal bears.
Oh yeah, the bears are everywhere.
Right. And it does all of this just to reach this one exact remote pile of gravel miles inland.
And, I mean, the most baffling part of that whole journey is the ending. Like, the moment it finally reaches that gravel, lays its eggs, and completes its mission, it dies. On purpose.
It sounds like some kind of sci-fi thriller, honestly.
Oh, totally.
But it's actually just, Tuesday in the Alaskan subarctic.
Yeah.
Because survival in the natural world is not this, highlight reel of perfectly engineered success stories.
No.
It's messy, it's high stakes, and it's incredibly demanding. So welcome to the deep dive. And today we are talking directly to you. Yes, you, the 7th grade reproductive strategy analyst who has just stepped through the doors of the Bioforge.
We have a really critical mission parameter for you today. You are here to investigate the greatest ongoing mystery on planet Earth.
The big one.
The big one, yeah. How organisms solve the massive, complex challenge of continuing life across generations.
And to help you crack this case, we've pulled together a pretty serious stack of intelligence. We're pulling data from the Bioforge Phenomena Bank, deep research on evolutionary pedagogical frameworks.
That's a mouthful.
It is, yeah. But we've also got the SAPS and CASIA science curriculum, which is this massive collaborative project drawing in-field insights from partner states like Alaska, Nebraska, and Alabama.
So your objective as an analyst is to master the core life science standard regarding reproduction.
Specifically MS-LS1-4 for the record.
Right, exactly. You need to understand how characteristic animal behaviors and specialized plant structures affect the probability of successful reproduction.
And hey, notice the phrasing there. We're not just going to hand you a vocabulary list to memorize.
No, the Bioforge does not work like that.
Exactly. It demands that you use evidence to build a rock-solid scientific argument. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can really analyze the field data, our baseline parameters need to be crystal clear.
Yeah, let's isolate the fundamental biological imperative first. Every single organism on Earth faces the same ultimate deadline, right? It needs to ensure its species continues over time.
Which is reproduction.
Yes, reproduction, the creation of offspring. But the natural world is extremely hostile. Predators, weather, starvation, disease, they're constantly in the way.
Right. It's not a walk in the park.
Definitely not.
All right.
So to bypass those threats, organisms employ two main evolutionary tools.
Basically, things they do and things they possess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The things they do are behaviors. These are characteristic animal behaviors.
Like specific observable actions.
Right. Actions an animal takes to attract a mate, protect its young, or navigate a treacherous environment. And then the things they possess are specialized structures.
So physical stuff.
Exactly. Physical, anatomical traits. Think of the physical shape of a flower, the density of a seed shell, or even the camouflage of a moth. They're all designed to solve a specific reproductive problem.
So we have reproduction, behaviors, and structures. But there's a fourth word in this mission briefing that is going to be the absolute linchpin of your entire analysis.
Probability.
Yes, probability.
That is, without a doubt, the single most vital concept for an analyst to grasp. We need to clear up a major misconception right now.
Let's hear it.
A behavior or structure does not guarantee reproduction. It can increase the probability of success.
It's so easy for us humans to fall into the trap of looking at nature as this finished, perfectly predictable machine,
Oh, for sure. We see a bird build a nest and assume, oh, well, the babies will definitely survive now.
Right. But probability means we're talking about chances. It's not destiny. It's a dice roll.
A rigged dice roll, ideally.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it like studying for a huge test or wearing the absolute best cleats to a soccer game.
Okay, I like this.
Right, because wearing those cleats doesn't guarantee you'll score a goal.
Obviously not. You could still trip.
You could trip, you could miss the pass. But the cleats drastically increase your probability of staying on your feet and making the shot compared to playing in, fuzzy slippers.
That is a great analogy.
So why is it so crucial for scientists to abandon this destiny-based view of nature and adopt this probability mindset instead?
Well, Honestly, a destiny-based view fundamentally misunderstands how evolution operates. Our sources point out that probabilistic reasoning is essentially the bedrock of a modern scientific worldview.
Because nature is just so complex.
Exactly. It's infinitely complex and filled with shifting variables. I mean, if successful reproduction were a guaranteed outcome, ecosystems would just collapse from overpopulation.
Oh, wow.
Or species would lose the ability to adapt.
Yeah.
So organisms are really just playing a relentless numbers game. They're using their behaviors and structures to stack the deck, tipping the mathematical odds in their offspring's favor.
So if survival is just rigging the dice, how do organisms that literally cannot move play the game?
You mean plants?
Yeah, plants. They're rooted to the ground, they can't walk over to a mate, and they certainly can't physically run away from a threat.
Well, because they lack mobility, plants have basically evolved to be master biochemical hackers.
Hackers, I love that.
Yeah, they have to manipulate the environment, and often other species. They trick them into doing the moving for them. This requires highly specialized structures, particularly for things like pollination and seed dispersal.
You know, I was looking at the curriculum data regarding flower coloration earlier. It's so easy to look at a bright flower and just think, oh, it's pretty.
Right, but that color is a calculated, specialized structure.
It really is.
What's fascinating here is that it's a targeted communication system, and it goes way beyond what the human eye can even see.
Wait, really? Like what?
Well, many flowers possess complex patterns visible only in the ultraviolet spectrum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a spectrum that bees and butterflies can see perfectly. So the plant is basically displaying a hidden runway map that points directly to the center of the flower.
And at the center of that map is the payload, right? The sweet nectar.
Exactly. The plant is effectively using a sugar reward to hijack the insect's behavior.
So sneaky.
As the insect feeds on the nectar, pollen adheres to its body. Then, when the insect flies off to the next flower in search of another sugar rush, it inadvertently transfers that pollen.
So the plant has successfully utilized its physical structure to command an animal's behavior.
Yes, thereby increasing its own reproductive probability.
That is wild. And, you know, the manipulation doesn't stop once the seed is created either.
No, it definitely doesn't.
The curriculum examples about seed dispersal brought up nuts with incredibly hard shells, like walnuts or acorns.
Ah!
And my initial thought was, wait, doesn't a hard shell make it much harder for the seed itself to sprout and grow? Like, it feels counterintuitive.
It does seem totally counterproductive if you're only looking at the plant.
Yeah.
But the structure of a thick shell is not solely about protecting the seed from rot or something.
What is it about then?
It is about creating an evolutionary hostage situation with a squirrel.
An evolutionary hostage situation. I am absolutely using that.
It's true. The tree invests heavily in making this nutrient-dense package that a squirrel desperately needs for winter survival, right?
Right.
The hard shell ensures the nut won't immediately decompose. That encourages the squirrel to hoard them, carrying them far away from the parent tree and burying them in the ground.
Which is exactly what the tree wants. It needs its seeds planted away from its own shade so they can grow.
Precisely. The tree banks on the probability that the squirrel will either forget where some are buried or just simply bury more than it can actually eat.
That is brilliant. By providing a tough, long-lasting food source, the tree tricks a mobile animal into acting as its personal agricultural worker.
Exactly. Plants hack the mobility of others. But when an organism actually has its own mobility, like when we look at animals, the strategies completely shift.
Yeah, suddenly they aren't just building traps, they're actively making choices.
Right. Animal behaviors open up a vastly wider array of strategies. Just consider mating behaviors. The sources highlight birds engaging in highly complex vocalizations, like singing specific songs.
Or displaying elaborate, colorful plumage.
Yes.
The classic example is the peacock. Which actually brings up another point of genuine confusion for me.
Oh, what's that?
Well, growing and carrying around a massive, iridescent 6-foot tail takes a colossal amount of energy. Plus, it makes the bird highly visible to predators, and it slows it down.
Right.
That sounds like a terrible survival strategy. Yeah. I mean, you're basically a walking neon sign for a tiger.
You are hitting on a core concept in evolutionary biology here. It's known as the handicap principle. It does seem completely absurd to deliberately burden yourself if you want to survive.
Yes. Why actively lower your chances of living?
Because the ultimate goal isn't just to live a long time, it's to reproduce.
Oh, right. The mission.
That massive tail acts as a signal to a potential mate. The male is essentially demonstrating, hey, look at this ridiculous, heavy, dangerous handicap I'm carrying around.
Like a flex.
A huge flex. He's saying, I am so genetically robust, so healthy, and so fast that I can survive despite this enormous disadvantage.
Oh, wow. So the energy cost itself is the proof of fitness.
Exactly. It vastly increases his probability of attracting a mate because he's proving his genetic quality in real time.
Okay, that makes so much sense now. And once the offspring arrive, the behavioral strategies pivot entirely, right?
Yeah.
From attraction to protection.
They absolutely do. The SEPS and Cassia sources mention birds gathering specific materials to weave insulated nests, which regulate the temperature for fragile eggs.
Or consider large mammals like moose or caribou. Their entire seasonal behavior revolves around migrating to incredibly specific, often really harsh calving grounds.
Yes, moving to areas where wolves or bears have a much harder time following them.
Or what about herding behaviors? You see prey animals grouping together so that the vulnerable young are shielded in the absolute center.
Right, protected from predators by an impenetrable wall of adult horns and hooves.
You know, there is a really vital history of science connection threaded through all of this that we shouldn't skip.
Oh, for sure. Long before we had digital databases, satellite GPS tracking, or infrared trail cameras, early naturalists were documenting these intricate behaviors.
Yeah, they just had notebooks, pencils, and a lot of time.
In incredible patience. I mean, they had to sit quietly in fields and forests for hours, days, even years, meticulously logging which specific bee visited which specific flower.
Or noting the exact day or herd began its migration.
Yeah. It is a powerful reminder that science has always been an iterative human endeavor.
It really is.
It's built on generations of people looking closely at the natural world and systematically asking why and how these specific actions boost the odds of survival.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at individual examples like peacocks and squirrels is totally crucial for building our baseline. But as a Bioforge analyst, you need to apply these principles to complex, real-world systems. So let's transition to a specific, high-stakes environment where structures, behaviors, and shifting variables all collide.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Alaska's subarctic ecosystems.
Yes. The Bioforge curriculum highlights the Pacific salmon, specifically the genus Oncorhynchus, as a phenomenal place-based phenomenon.
Their life history is referred to as gravel to gravel.
That's the one, and it represents one of the most extreme reproductive gambles on the entire planet.
I mentioned them briefly at the very top of the deep dive, but let's really break this down. The behavior is called anadromy, right?
Correct. Most Pacific salmon exhibit anadromy, meaning they divide their lives between fresh and saltwater.
Okay.
They're born in freshwater streams, the gravel. Once they reach a certain stage of development, they migrate out to the marine environment.
The open ocean.
Yeah, the open ocean, where they spend years feeding, growing rapidly, and accumulating dense muscle and fat.
But then comes the really critical behavioral trait. When it is time to reproduce, they return.
They do.
But wait, they swim thousands of miles out in the open ocean. How on earth do they find their way back to the exact river, let alone the specific tributary or the exact gravel bed where they were born years prior?
It is an absolute marvel of biological engineering. They use a combination of magnetic field detection for broad ocean navigation.
Like a built-in compass.
Exactly. And then as they get closer to the coast, they switch to olfactory memory.
Wait, they smell it.
They literally smell their way home. Their olfactory structures are so specialized they can detect the unique chemical signature of their natal stream.
You're kidding.
No, they can detect a single drop of that water among millions of gallons.
That is staggering. They're following a microscopic chemical breadcrumb trail.
Yes.
And they do all of this navigation to engage in a behavior you called semelparity.
Semelparity, yes. It is an evolutionary strategy where an organism spawns only once in its entire lifetime, and then it dies.
Which brings up another huge contradiction. I mean, if they die immediately after laying the eggs, the offspring have zero parental protection.
Then that all.
That totally contradicts the caribou or the bird strategies we just talked about.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they stay and protect the nest?
It basically comes down to energy economics and ecosystem design. The journey upstream is just so brutal.
Swimming against rapids, leaping waterfalls.
Evading bears, exactly. That the salmon pour every single ounce of their biological energy into reaching the gravel. They stop eating entirely the moment they hit fresh water.
They don't eat at all.
Not a bite.
Yeah.
Their digestive tracts literally shrink to make room for more eggs or sperm. They burn through their stored fat, their muscle degrades, and their immune system basically shuts down.
They are biologically disassembling themselves to power the journey.
That's a great way to describe it. And by dying in the stream, their decomposing bodies release massive amounts of marine nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus right into the nutrient-poor freshwater ecosystem.
Oh, I see.
This feeds the insects and algae, which in turn feeds the very fry that hatch from their eggs.
Wow.
So their death is the actual mechanism that ensures the survival of the next generation.
It is a perfectly balanced loop.
Oh.
But as analysts, you can't just study a salmon by looking at a single fish in a vacuum. You really have to look at the whole system over time.
Absolutely.
The sources point out something profoundly important here: the integration of traditional ecological knowledge, or tech.
The curriculum strongly emphasizes this because for thousands of years, local subsistence communities and indigenous families operating fish camps in Alaska have engaged in the careful, sustained observation of these animal life cycles and seasonal timings.
And this isn't just like casual watching.
No, not at all.
It's a rigorous, multi-generational data set. The sources note that these communities document vital qualitative changes in the salmon.
Yeah, they track subtle shifts in the size of the fish returning, changes in the texture and firmness of their flesh, and exactly when the run timing occurs each season.
And this knowledge is rooted in a deep, reciprocal respect for the responsibilities humans have when observing and interacting with living systems.
Right. Subsistence fishing relies on the health of this population. It is not about passively extracting data. It is an integrated understanding of the ecosystem.
And this is where a 7th grade analyst gets to do some truly advanced science. Because in the Bioforge, you combine this rich, qualitative, traditional ecological knowledge with quantitative data.
Things like historical run reconstruction tables.
Exactly, and decades of water temperature logs from the local rivers.
You merge the qualitative observations with the numerical measurements to see the underlying mechanism of change.
Right, because analysts are looking at the impact of shifting environmental variables on reproductive probability.
Yes. For instance, the data clearly shows that the waters in many Alaskan rivers are warming.
And how does that affect a cold-blooded animal that is, stop eating?
Well, using scientific reasoning, students can map out the causality. Salmon are ectothermic, their body temperature matches the water. Warmer water forces a fish's metabolic rate to accelerate.
Oh, no.
Right, because they are on a strict energy budget, remember, they aren't eating. A faster metabolism means they burn through their stored fat and muscle reserves much quicker.
So if the water is warmer, their energy demands skyrocket. And if they run out of energy before they navigate the rapids and reach the spawning grounds,
the probability of successful reproduction drops to absolute zero. They die before they can spawn.
that is a heavy but incredibly clear realization of how a changing variable completely rewrites the odds.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you prepare your field notes? How do you actually prove you've mastered this mission?
To earn the reproductive probability badge in the Bioforge, there is a strict evidence-based criterion. You cannot simply name a behavior or point to a structure.
So writing down like birds sing or flowers have bright petals will not cut it.
Not even close. You must construct a scientific argument. You need to explain the mechanism, the how. How does the specific evidence you gathered support your claim that a trait increases the probability of reproductive success?
You really have to connect the biological what to the evolutionary why.
Exactly. Data analysis isn't just the final step of a worksheet where you fill in a blank.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the engine that powers scientific explanation. You have to take the raw data, the river temperatures, the tick observations on flesh texture, the ultraviolet patterns of a flower, and weave it into a cohesive explanation of how an organism is fighting the odds to survive.
It is about demonstrating that you comprehend the underlying physics and biology of the strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Why does the peacock's heavy tail signal fitness? How does the salmon's metabolic budget function under thermal stress? How does a nutshell manipulate a mammal?
Okay, let's bring this all together. We've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by defining our mission, understanding that organisms don't just exist. They actively rely on specific characteristic behaviors and specialized physical structures to boost the probability that their offspring will survive.
All right, we learned that survival is not a guaranteed destiny. It's a high-stakes game of odds.
We examined how immobile plants use color, biochemical scent, and structural design to manipulate mobile animals into assisting with pollination and seed dispersal.
And we observed how animals use physical handicaps, seasonal migrations, and defensive herding to protect their young and secure mates.
Then we traveled all the way to the subarctic to see these concepts collide in real time, decoding the brutal, beautiful gravel-to-gravel life cycle of the anadromous Pacific salmon.
And we saw how scientists use multiple lines of evidence, merging quantitative temperature logs with the invaluable generational insights of traditional ecological knowledge.
All to argue how environmental shifts directly impact an organism's reproductive probability.
And most importantly, we established the expectations for the Bioforge. True mastery is constructing evidence-based arguments that explain the why and the how behind the phenomena.
Which brings us to the final phase of your mission. Before you log out of the Bioforge today, you have 3 field mysteries to solve and record in your notes.
These aren't just recap questions, by the way. These require you to apply the mechanisms we discussed to completely new scenarios.
Ready? Let's do it.
Mystery number 1. Analyze your own local environment. Identify a specific animal behavior in your region and argue exactly how the mechanics of that behavior increase the probability of its offspring's survival.
Okay, mystery number 2. Consider the plants we discussed. Why is empirical evidence, actual measurable data, and observation absolutely essential when arguing that a plant's specialized structure aids in reproduction? Why can't a scientist just look at a plant and guess its function?
Good one. And mystery number 3. Take the mechanism of changing variables we saw in Alaska. How might sudden changes in an ecosystem alter the effectiveness of an organism's traditional reproductive behaviors?
Yeah, if the fundamental rules of the environment change overnight, what happens to the behavior?
Exactly.
So write those mysteries down, mull over the mechanisms, and prepare to build your arguments. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final puzzle to think about.
Okay, let's hear it.
We spent this entire deep dive looking at how incredibly fine-tuned these structures and behaviors are. The salmon chemically knows its river, the flower visually knows its bee.
It's a state of deeply evolved equilibrium.
But what happens when the timeline of the environment shifts faster than the timeline of evolution?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if an ecosystem changes faster than a plant or animal can adapt its specialized structures or characteristic behaviors, well, how does that rewrite the mathematical probability of an entire species' future?
That is a heavy question.
Because, as we've seen today, the game of survival is never finished. It is always in motion. So think about it, and we'll see you next time in the Bioforge.